The new game-changing update for MarvelSNAP with collector's tokens is just about to drop. It's just around the corner in the next couple of days, and a lot of people have been asking me what pull 3 cards they should pick up with their first collector's tokens. Today we're going to talk about just that. We've got our top 10 cards that you can pick up from pull 3 with these collector's tokens. So stay tuned. Let's go. Hey, Milky here, back again with another one. Today we're jumping in and looking at what I consider to be the top 10 cards that you could be picking up with your collector's tokens as you're progressing your way through Pool 3. Now, I think it's widely understood that if you are making your way through Pool 3 and you don't have a full Pool 3 or Series 3 collection at the moment, that it's best to continue to complete that collection and get access to all of those cards, because you do get some benefits once you do complete that collection and have all those cards available to you. Now, if you are looking to pick up Series 4 and 5 cards and you have them in your store, don't let me stop you. But if you are looking at min-maxing the amount of time and benefit that you get from unlocking cards, potentially unlocking all the Pool 3 cards is definitely the way to go. All right, with that being said, lots of people have been asking what are the best cards to pick up. So today, we're going to go through our top 10 cards. We've got some runners up as well, but we're going to look at cards which either completely enable brand new decks by themselves, cards that can be versatile and slot into different decks, cards that are just generally really strong, and cards that I've found really successful and consistent in building decks around in my experience. So without further ado, let's jump in and take a look at these cards. All right, so we'll start things off with quickly looking at a few runner-up cards that I have. These didn't make it into my top 10, but I think they are still very impactful cards. And if you have other cards that you could potentially build decks around them, they can do very well in their own right. First up, we have Ultron on my list. Ultron's a very interesting card for sure. I'm a massive fan of the Ultron Zoo deck. It's helped me a ton in my Infinite Climbs. So Ultron in Zoo decks does really well. It's very unexpected. You could look at picking up Ultron if you're a fan of the Zoo style of play. Another card to consider picking up, very much for the fun factor, but also quite a good card, is Lockjaw. Lockjaw has a fantastic ability which enables high roll kind of style games. We've done a recent video on Lockjaw and he's just a really fun card, but can do very well as well. So he's one to consider if you do have some of the larger kind of big power cards coming out of Pool 3. So another runner-up that we have is Leader. Leader has a crazy on-reveal ability which will copy all of the cards your opponent has played that turn, being mindful of board space and everything going on. And if you're ahead in the game, it's very hard to beat Leader if you've got the board space available. But for the most part, Leader's a great card. You can pick him up. He can fit into a number of different types of decks. And he's a very strong turn 6 play. Another runner-up that we're looking at is Hela, and I know I'm covering a lot of different archetypes here, but Hela really enables the discard archetype very well. Her Ghost Rider just do so well in terms of making the most out of the discarding that you're doing. She is a bit of a casino. She is a bit of like RNG associated with Hela, but for the most part, she can do really well in decks that are built around her. Death is an awesome card to include in lots of different types of decks. She does well in Destroy decks, does well in the Death Wave type Destroy decks. She does well in Lockjaw High Roll decks. You can include her in a lot of different spots, and if you have a combo with Waves, she can do even better. Death's a pretty versatile card, and I really like to include her as a runner-up for these cards for sure. The final runner-up that we have, and I know we've covered a lot of cards here, but it's Arnim Zola. I think Arnim Zola has continued to rise to prominence, especially with the introduction of Black Panther and how he interacts with Black Panther and is able to reactivate on-reveal abilities. But Arnim Zola also works so well with the Devil Dino deck coming out of Pool 2. So if you are picking up this early on, you can have a great addition to that deck just straight off the bat. I really like Arnim Zola. I think he's only getting stronger as more cards come into the game for the most part. He also does great in negative style decks. So Arnim Zola is a decent pickup if you've got cards to kind of work with him and build around him. Now we enter the top 10, and in 10th place we have Destroyer. Destroyer is a great card to unlock early on in Pool 3. If you have him as you're entering Pool 3, you're just set up for success and can really climb the ladder quite well with Destroyer decks. He fits in a few different decks with Destroyer, but even more so within the Spectrum Destroyer deck, which is kind of like rose to prominence and is really a deck that a lot of people are running at the moment, which is quite successful for sure. multiple win conditions in that deck, and Destroyer is one of those. He's just a great card to include, and if you haven't picked him up and you are in the early stages of Pool 3 and looking at a brand new deck to play, Destroyer could definitely fill that spot. Coming in at number 9, and this one might surprise some people, but we have Psylocke. And Psylocke is a 2-cost, 1 power card with an on reveal ability that says, next turn you get 1+ energy. There's a few ramp cards in MarvelSNAP, and ramp is so powerful in turn-based games, especially to kind of skip a turn. You're essentially, if you play her on 2, you can skip to turn 4. If you can play her on 3, you can skip to a 5-cost card being played the next turn. Psylocke has some versatility. She can be played in lots of different types of decks. She pairs really, really well with strong 4 and 5-cost cards. I love Psylocke. I think she is probably underseen in a lot of decks, but she was one of my later unlocks on the track, but I really, really enjoy playing Psylocke, and I think she's a fantastic addition to this top 10, and definitely a card that you should think about unlocking if you're looking to play into that ramp style and you see her in your store. You probably won't be disappointed picking her up. So I could not include my favorite card in the game in my top 10. Coming in at number 8, we have Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom is a great way of spreading power across the board on the final turns. He fits in lots of different types of decks. If you're looking to just reach those locations which you can't easily reach, he's great for that. He's a solid final turn play, which allows you to play across multiple locations and potentially win on that front. I love Dr. Doom. I think his ability is awesome. Thematically, he works really well. He's a very, very solid card that you can drop in as a plug-and-play option in a lot of decks. So this one also might surprise some people, but coming in at number 7, we have Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative is an awesome card. Used to absolutely run the ladder when he was at his 4 and 4 cost, 4 power state with all of the cards built around him, but nerfs to Mr. Negative, nerfs to the cards that go into his deck. He's kind of ended up in his current state. I still think he's a fantastic card because his ability didn't change. And if you're able to line up those playlines with Mr. Negative and other cards being drawn out from your deck, you can have some huge final turns in the game, which are difficult to counter, but also like just blow away your opponent in those final turns. Also, Mr. Negative is a great card that kind of just enables a brand new type of deck all by himself, which is really cool. That's why I've included him in the list. If you are looking to try a brand new deck, a deck which can be quite high rolly, but definitely some fun and consistent as well, Mr. Negative can definitely fill that spot as well. Another card that completely enables a new style of deck by himself is Patriot. So he's our number 6 for this top 10. Patriot gives all of your cards with no abilities +2 power. There's lots of no ability cards that come out early on in the game through pools 1 and 2, which you'll have access to straight away. He does get better with cards like Mystique and other cards in pool 3 for sure, but I think you can start to build a deck around Patriot even just with those no ability cards. I really like Patriot. He's a very solid card. He does well on the ladder, consistent in what he does. Just a great deck to kind of build around and have something consistently that you can go to when you're looking to climb the ladder. All right, now we head into the top 5 cards that if you don't have, I think you should really consider picking them up as pool 3 options if you do see them available in your store. Coming in at number 5, we have Mystique. Now, I almost wanted to put Mystique higher than this, but I've held myself back. I personally think she is the best card in the game because of the versatility that she has and the combos that she has, but also the way you can include her in lots of different types of deck. I really like Mystique as a card. She works great in Mr. Negative decks. She works perfectly with combo cards like Wong and lots of different other combos that you can include for Mystique. She's completely unique to herself in the game, which is something that is just hard to counter, hard to play around unless you have those direct counter cards. She's a fantastic option to pick up that I think you're going to get a lot of value out of regardless of the decks that you play her in. As long as you've got some key combos that you can have with her, she's going to do really, really well. At number 4, we have Wong, and some people might put Wong a lot higher than this, but for us, I think he is a fantastic card. If you don't have counters to him, often the game is kind of over for the most part. If you do have counter cards, if you're able to lock down other locations or potentially cancel out Wong's ability or move him or things like that, he can definitely be shut down quite easily. And that's why I don't have him higher, because he can be countered quite easily. But if you're able to get value out of Wong, build a deck around him, he's very hard to stop if you have the cards in hand to follow up. Really, really like Wong. I think he's a fantastic card to pick up. If you see him in your store, I would almost snap that up instantly and definitely continue on your way and build some decks around Wong. He does really, really well. Coming into the top 3, and in 3rd place, we have Aero. And Aero has just gone from strength to strength. She has gone from a card that saw 0 play at all a couple of months ago to one of the best cards and one of the most prioritized cards in the game. She fits in so many types of decks, even just as a disruption card. She does super, super well. I think the buff to her just took her to the next level, and people are just realizing how strong her on-reveal ability can be late on in the game, especially countering combo decks and just lots of versatile playlines you can do with Aero. So I will say that all of the top 10 cards that I have today is as of current state. There could be some balance patches coming with the new update. There could be some nerfs coming, and Aero might be one of those cards that is definitely highly talked about potentially as getting a nerf. So just be aware that Aero might be nerfed and things could change, but as of current state, I have Aero as my number 3 as just a phenomenal card that is versatile and does so much for your decks. Coming in at number 2, we have Wave, and Wave was the OG Battle Pass card or the Season Pass card that came out. She's been the one of the strongest cards in the game ever since. Ramp, as I've talked about a bit before, but ramping in this game is insane, especially with the turn-based nature, and being able to reduce 6 cost cards or 5 cost cards to be played at the next turn on turn 4 can work well for you. It can be perfectly line up your plays, but it can also be incredibly disruptive for your opponent. So this card just does so many different things on so many different levels. You can also play her late in the game if you're winning to just shut down the game and make impossible plays for your opponent and decisions. She just has tons of versatility. I think she's one of the strongest cards in the game. That's why I've got her at number 2. The final card that I've got, and our number 1 for today, I've got down as Sarah. And probably to no one's surprise, Sarah is just an absolute beast of a card. Insane ongoing ability, which just allows all the cards in your hand continually to cost 1 less. If you're able to ramp into Sarah early, potentially with cards like Psylocke, she takes even to the next level. You have multiple turns of discounted cards, which just make plays in the game kind of insane. She did take a bit of a hit when Magic actually got nerfed, not being able to be played on turn 6, but I still think she is such a strong card. She does really, really well. Often people aren't playing enchantresses or ways to negatively affect this card, or rogues, things like that. So you often get the full value out of Sarah playing her late on in the game. Sarah's just a great card to include in lots of different types of decks. If you're pairing her with cards that cost 4 or 3, you can play so many of these cards late on in the game, which can be hugely impactful. Really like Sarah. I think she may be one of the cards that also is looked at getting nerfs, but current state Sarah, number 1 card I think you could be picking up to include in lots of different types of decks. All right, so that's it. Here's a summary of all of our runner-up cards that we have and all of the top 10 cards that we have that I think if you do see them in your store, definitely consider picking them up if you're going through Pool 3. The collector's tokens are going to give you access to 3,000 tokens straight off the bat, which will equate to 3 cards of your choosing if you see them in your store, if you're past collection level 500. And even if you're not past collection level 500, you'll be able to get access to those 3,000 tokens once you do. Players that are higher past 1,000 will have 6 brand new cards that they can pick up. And if you have full collections, you're going to be looking at Series 4 and 5 cards. But if you are looking to pick up cards, you don't have these cards, these are definitely ones to consider, which can take the decks that you build around them to the next level. All right, that's it from me. Consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. We'd love to have you on board, and it really helps us out. I'm out of here for now, but until the next one, I'll see you then.